Welcome everyone to the Tibetan Buddhist Society New Year gathering. So that's a Tibetan New Year, which was, I think, 2 weeks ago. This is a very short meditation session, so we've got probably 20 minutes now, so it could be finished by about 10:30, a little bit earlier if we can. So let's get straight into meditation. So first of all, can I have a show of hands of who's meditated before? Yeah, okay. Pretty much everyone, I think. And a few faces I recognise as well. So just a quick refresher really then. So important thing with meditation is posture, breathing, focus. So starting off with posture. If you're sitting in a chair or if you're sitting on a cushion, doesn't matter. But sit upright if you can. Try and get your spine vertical. Chin sort of down a little bit. We place our hands in Buddhist meditation. We place the left hand in our lap and the right hand on top. And we join the thumbs. And that's to facilitate the subtle energies flowing, which is conducive to meditation. We place our tongue at the top of our front 2 teeth, the top teeth, to facilitate not having to swallow saliva all the time, which can be a bit of a distraction. So once you've got those things, we can either close our eyes or partially close our eyes. See which one works for you. I think in time, if you can do it with partially closed eyes, that's useful, but closing eyes is fine as well to reduce visual distraction. So let's start. So we'll just start with a little bit of relaxation. So settle your mind. Put aside all thoughts of last week, yesterday, today, tomorrow, next week, and bring your mind to the present. Now move your mind to your feet and relax them. You give them a little tense to relax, so just tense them briefly and then relax them. Relax your ankles, relax your calves, relax your thighs, relax your trunk, relax your back, shoulders, give them a little shrug, let them go loose. Relax your arms, fingers, relax your neck, relax your face. Have a gentle inward smile. Relax your scalp and just relax. Become aware of your breath. Just observe in-breath, out-breath. Don't try and control it, just observe it. You can count your in-breaths. Try counting to 10. And if you find yourself getting distracted, just restart your count again. So it's not unusual to find ourselves getting drawn back into events of the past or future. But bring your mind gently back onto the breath and try to minimize other distractions. So just relax breathing, counting on the in-breath. Find yourself wandered off on holidays or something else, just round your mind back up gently. Bring it back, and we're only watching the breath. Each in-breath counts 1. Try to get to 10. distracted. Bring your mind back and restart counting. Meditation exercise, which will be a visualization, still with the breath. So now on your next in-breath, breathe in a little more deeply and visualizing that you're breathing in pure fresh air from high in the Himalayas, or maybe in the Australian bush, pure fresh air, purifying your body, filling your body. Feel that your body is getting purified. Feel that it's lighter. And then on the out-breath, exhale all the impurities, stale air, disease, bad conditions, and see it come out as dark grey smoke and disappear into the ground. And then repeat it, breathing in fresh, pure air from the Himalayas, feeling your body becoming lighter, purified, healthy. And on the out-breath, breathing out all the stale air, bad conditions, disease in the form of grey smoke, and the smoke disappearing under the ground. Feel your body become lighter, healthier, happier. Short mental exercise, meditation exercise. So this one's called Immeasurable Happiness. And I want you to meditate on the wish for all living beings, yourself, your family, all the people in Victoria, all the people in Australia, all the people around the world, all the animals, insects, fish, all to feel happy and all to develop the causes for ongoing happiness. Develop that wish progressively. Then when you feel you've got it developed, just hold that thought. To the next one, which is immeasurable compassion. So that's developing the thought in the same progression we used before, of yourself, family, friends, people in Melbourne, people in Victoria, and so on. All becoming free of suffering, completely free of suffering, and free of the causes of suffering. Just think how wonderful that would be if everyone is totally free of suffering. So develop that thought, and when you feel that you've got it, then try and hold that thought. In Buddhist meditation, when we reach the end of a meditation session, we try and dedicate the benefit of that meditation for a purpose, and generally that purpose is for the well-being of all people. So if you're inclined, make a little dedication for the benefits flowing from your meditation. And then gently release your concentration. Open your eyes. Thank you. So just sort of a bit of background on that. When we were focusing on the breath, that's a common technique to stabilise the mind. The breath, the body and the mind are all tightly interlinked, so breathing meditation is a good way to settle your mind. the meditation exercises we were doing, that's generally called or termed analytical meditation. So that's when you're reviewing something, generally it's positive type of meditation, and in Buddhism there are prescribed positive meditations to review. So you would review something and then settle at the end of that on a single pointed meditation to do with that particular aspect that you are meditating on. So that's sort of a little summary of what we did. And we did 2 of the 4 immeasurables, and the 4 immeasurables meditations are certainly, probably wouldn't term them introductory, but they are very important meditations and very beneficial for people to do. So, any questions? Any comments? Oh, well, we've done pretty well for time, so it's 26 past. So we've got so thank you first of all for coming, and thank you for your time. We've probably got a 3-minute break until the next session starts. So if anyone needs to take a break, now's a good time to do it. So thank you very much.
Hi everybody, welcome. My name's Martin. I'm a member here of our Tibetan Buddhist Society community, for those who don't know me. So we're going to do a short talk and a bit of a timetable because I've got to be out of here at about 10 to in order to do set up for the ceremony. But going to do a little bit of a talk about the festival theme, which is on peace and renewal. And those topics are always important, but they're particularly important in the environment we find ourselves in right now, with a major war happening as we speak, with the types of floods, pandemic, all of the many stresses and difficulties that we as human beings are facing and have faced over recent times. So when we're confronted with something so shocking as the aggression that we're seeing in Ukraine at the moment, for example, it can seem incredible. We can feel quite helpless. We can have this very strong, urgent feeling that something needs to be done, but we feel powerless as individuals to respond to it, to do much that's useful. So what is it that's most useful? What is it that we can do as individuals in dealing with these really major problems that our fellow human beings face? Well, obviously there are all of the external things that we can do, and we may not feel that they're so significant because as an individual we can only contribute so much money. We can't actually go to Ukraine right now and help refugees, although of course with floods and things many fellow members in our community do that. They step right up and they get out there with a broom and clean up people's houses and so forth, and all of that is absolutely wonderful. The other aspect of the response, which from a Buddhist perspective is particularly important, is the internal response. And within the Buddhist system, this is especially important because from a Buddhist perspective, absolutely everything ultimately depends on mind. So we might have a bit of a reaction to this. So we might think, so we've got this major war happening, we've got crises on our doorstep. Isn't it a bit self-indulgent or missing the point to say that the appropriate response should be to focus on ourselves, on our own mind? If we were paraphrasing Volodymyr Zelensky, we might say, I don't need you meditating for me, I need ammo. Well, Buddhists aren't going to be sending him ammo, but from a Buddhist perspective, it's certainly a valid and productive response, along with all of the external things we can do, to use this and any difficulty we come across as an opportunity to focus on our mind, to learn more about our mind so that we can figure out what is the most productive and useful way of responding. So Buddhism particularly focuses on the mind It says everything depends on mind because ultimately all of our decisions come from our mind. They don't come from anywhere else. All of our motivations come from our mind, and our actions depend on our decisions and motivations. So actually it's a false binary to think of us actually doing things on the one hand and then focusing on ourselves and meditating on the other, because what we do depends on mind. And in particular, the practice of meditation, from a Buddhist perspective, its main value is to help us to develop and improve our mind. And again, this is really, really important if we take an example of the dreadful war that we're seeing at the moment. So in this sort of time, having a clear mind, a peaceful mind, a restrained mind, having a good heart is especially important, because if we don't have that, then it's easy for things to escalate. And whereas in this case we have people who have nuclear weapons, obviously the possibility of escalation is literally is literally threatening to our very existence. So there are a number of different ways we can think about developing our mind so that we can deal better with troubled times. So on the one hand, at the most basic level, we need more peace and stability so that we have that clarity, so that we're able to respond to things in a careful and considered and reasonable way. We also, as well as developing that basic foundation of peacefulness and calm, it's also useful to be aware of the types of minds that we ourselves have that can bring about conflict, that can bring about trouble in our lives and others. And the third aspect is to developing those wonderful positive minds, such as great love and great compassion, that are the real support, that are the real thing that is powerful when we as human beings face these really, really troubled times. And at the same time, again, remembering this isn't either or, at the same time, we engage in action. So with Ukraine, for example, if we can afford it, then if we can send financial support, that's wonderful. With the floods and so forth, financial support, any practical support we can give. Again, we're not in any way diminishing the importance of those, but from a Buddhist perspective, they're more productive and more effective if they come from a peaceful, stable, loving, and compassionate mind. And only we can develop those qualities ourselves. So how do we go about working on those three types of things? How do we generate more peace and stability? Well, having a regular, simple meditation practice, for example, even a mindfulness meditation practice, we simply do basic things such as breathing meditation, for example, settling our mind down, bringing more space into our life, bringing more peace and calm into our life. This is a wonderful basis for developing more clarity and more peacefulness generally. How do we start dealing with the negative qualities, the negative minds that we as human beings all have that can be the cause of conflict or difficulty in our life? So from a Buddhist perspective, the main method to do that is using analytical meditation that Chris mentioned briefly in the last session. So for example, we can use our analytical mind, our analytical meditation, to identify the less productive, more destructive, more harmful minds that we have in our continuum. For example, the habits that we all have of anger from time to time. Through analytical meditation, we can understand exactly what our negative minds are and how it is that they work. And also, it enables us to eliminate confusion. So if we don't have a really clear understanding, for example, of what the mind of anger is, it's easy for us to fall into confusion. So We could easily think when we're talking about Ukraine, well, how can you really tell me that anger isn't an appropriate response to the bombing of children, of civilians, of hospitals, and so forth? How can you possibly say that it's not appropriate to respond with a mind of anger to the atrocities that we're seeing in this war and that we see in any war? From a Buddhist perspective, the answer is that without reservation, we should recognise that behaviour as absolutely deplorable, absolutely destructive. There are no good qualities whatsoever about it. We should do everything in our power to stop it happening, and we should do everything in our power to ensure that there are consequences for those types of atrocities. So the response to anger, suggesting that it's useful to deal with our mind of anger, does not imply anything, any lessening of our response to what is deplorable and destructive and evil behaviour. However, through analytical meditation, it enables us to get a better understanding of what it is that anger actually is. And that response, that strong, uncompromising response of being determined to deal with that destructive behaviour and to make sure there are consequences for it, that in itself is not the mind of anger. If we're dealing with anger from the point of view of analytical meditation, then we would analyse its nature. And from a Buddhist perspective, if we're talking about the mind of anger, then it's said to have 4 elements. So the first element is that we identify something as bad or negative or destructive. The second element is that we exaggerate that negative quality of that object. The third quality is that we become antagonistic, and the fourth quality is that we have this wish to harm the person or the thing that's causing us some sort of difficulty. So from a Buddhist perspective, that's what we mean when we're talking about anger. And the reason that anger is so destructive and that it's useful to try and deal with our own habits of anger is particularly because of 2 of those qualities. Firstly, the quality of exaggeration. So when we are really, really, really angry with somebody, we focus utterly on their negative aspects and we have no sense whatsoever that they have any positive aspects at all. We have this cardboard cutout, black and white view of the world. So it's completely distorting, completely unrealistic. The other and an even more destructive aspect of the habit of anger that we all have is this accompanying wish to harm. So wish to harm, for example, the person who says something unpleasant to us, the wish to harm the person that we see as dangerous to ourselves or to people that we care about. And from a Buddhist perspective, this element, this wish to harm, can never, ever, in any circumstance, bring about a good result. So opposing negative behaviour, bringing people who perpetrate negative behaviour to justice, that has a positive result. But wishing to harm can never, ever bring about a positive result for ourselves or for anyone else. And in fact, if we analyse, we can see that it's only because of this wish to harm that we have wars at all. It's only possible for what we're seeing in Ukraine to exist, for any war to happen, because of this wish to harm. And so that's why, from a Buddhist perspective, recognising our own mind of anger and beginning to deal with it is really, really useful. So the way that we do with this is through analytical meditation. We learn to identify these habits of mind that we all have within ourselves. We can reflect on their faults, so we can think of cases in our own life where we've been really, really angry and see where that led us to, see the types of consequences it led us to. We can think about people we know in our own life who are habitually angry and ask ourselves whether it's enjoyable to hang out with people who are continuously have a state of mind like that. And by using analytical meditation like this, it builds our motivation and it builds our understanding, and we then are able to, and then we're motivated to avoid the mind of anger, which is good for us and good for everyone else. The third aspect of it then is to cultivate the opposite of those negative minds. And when we're talking about anger, the opposite of our negative mind of anger are the minds of loving kindness and the minds of compassion and love. So why should we have loving kindness? From a Buddhist perspective, the basic logic of it is because we know ourselves that we want happiness. We know ourselves, if we analyse, that everything we do, all of our actions day by day, from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to sleep, all of them are seen through the filter of wishing to seek more enjoyment, more happiness, and to avoid unhappiness. We're vividly aware of the fact with ourselves. We also recognise it clearly with the people who are closest to us and that we care about. And if we can make somebody who's really close and dear to us happy, then that's something that brings us great happiness ourselves. We also know, if we analyse through analytical meditation, that without question, without doubt, every other living being on the face of this earth is the same. There's not one living being out there who wakes up this morning and thinks, I'd really like to be miserable today. I'd really like to be lonely today. I'd really like to be in pain today. Also, we recognise that every living being in the world has the potential to be of great benefit to others or to be of great harm to others. So we ourselves, because we all have these seeds of the minds of anger, as well as the seeds of the minds of loving kindness, we have the potential to be enormously helpful and beneficial in our world, or enormously destructive and disruptive in our world. If we are a person who is actually causing tremendous disruption, destruction, and upset in this world, from the point of view of that person, that is also an extraordinarily unfortunate and sad position to be in. Would any of us like to be in the position of Vladimir Putin right now? Would any of us like to be Vladimir Putin? None of us would. And so again, through this type of analysis, it opens our mind a little to more flexibility and to the possibility of forgiveness and loving compassion. If we think about it, what is it that we as human beings really value in a person? It is these qualities of kindness, of caring about others, of compassion, of generosity, and so forth. And so the best use of meditation from a Buddhist perspective is ourselves to develop these qualities. Developing these qualities, we shouldn't kid ourselves. It's hard. It's hard to really transform from where we are to become supremely compassionate. It's really hard to transform from where we are so that we never have a response of a mind of anger. So actually achieving that result right now is hard, but starting isn't hard. Every day we can look for opportunities to develop more kindness. When we see our mind of anger arising, then we can apply some mindfulness and not let it dictate our activities. And we strengthen this if we have a regular practice of meditating like this. And having said that and spoke the benefits of meditation, we have no time to do any today. But as many of you will be familiar, here at the Tibetan Buddhist Society, our regular classes, the intro class and the Path of Enlightenment class, go into these subjects in a great more detail about developing our peace of mind more generally, about recognising and dealing with our more problematic minds, and of developing our great love and compassion. And also not to overdo the promotion bit, but we have a wonderful Easter retreat coming up in a couple of weeks' time, where there'll be where certainly some of these meditations will be gone into. So, speaking of people being angry, people might be stroppy with me if I don't wind up right about now because a few things to do before we start off for the blessing ceremony. So, thank you very much for your attention. Please enjoy the rest of the festival and stay calm, everybody. Okay, thank you.
Welcome to the Tibetan Buddhist Society's Peaceful Land of Joy. My name is Angela and I've been a volunteer and a student for 22 years. So welcome to the Peaceful Land of Joy Meditation Centre. Before commencing, we'd like to acknowledge our many special guests, both ordained and lay, who are also giving their time freely today. Venerable Thich Phuoc, Abbott of the Quang Temple, Honourable Maria Vamvakinou, our local member, federal member for Calwell. Craig Odarchi, State Member for the Northern Metropolitan Region, Shadow Minister for Multicultural Affairs and Citizenship. Councillor Karen Sherry, Councillor for Meadow Valley Ward, Hume City Council. Councillor Jim Overend, Councillor of Aiken Ward, Hume City Council. And Venerable Kangchong Ringzen, Dromlin Monastery. Thank you. You can sit down. Thank you. Also, our long-time supporters that are Diane Gilbert with partner Paul, Ms. Lynn Pearce, and we believe Stephen Malakak. As we welcome and all the directors, members and students and supporters of the Tibetan Buddhist Society, we also welcome community members and to our peaceful land of joy. Special thanks to Karen Sherry, City of Hume, for her continuing support. Now we acknowledge the original custodians of this land, the Gunung Willimbullock people of the Wurundjeri tribe, and pay respects to their elders, past, present, and future, and to the elders from other communities. This Saturday, we are celebrating the New Year Gathering 2022, a morning for peace and renewal. This morning, we had Chris McKeown lead a guided meditation at 10, followed by a talk with Martin Horan on the theme of the New Year Gathering at 10:30 a.m. Both these sessions and the blessing ceremony are being recorded and will be available on the Tibetan Buddhist Society's YouTube channel within a few days. Over the last 2 years, the world has endured inordinate amount of suffering due to the pandemic. We watched the virus spread from country to country, a rising death toll and relatives not being able to be with loved ones as they passed. We witnessed forced separation dominating the world through lockdowns and border closures. Human contact in many cases was only possible through technology, like saying our final goodbyes, an expression of love, and rituals for end of life. Technology also allowed us to say hello to newborn babies, work from home, and homeschool our children. The pandemic caused a suspension of elective surgery and no opportunity to visit loved ones in hospital or aged care, limiting funerals to only 5, and no wakes, weddings, parties, gatherings, no eating out, and many for this caused the businesses to temporarily close. Last year, we saw the closure of churches, synagogues, temples, and mosques. We began to lose count of the number of lockdowns and experienced our first curfews. Many experienced money worries and uncertain future through the first, second, and third waves. It was a difficult 2 years, which we reflect as 2 years of great suffering. However, we also saw a tremendous amount of goodwill and compassion, people helping people, kindness to each others and strangers, neighbours helping neighbours, countries helping countries. And we saw strong leadership, which kept us all safe. For some, the last 2 years gave us the space to reflect on our faith, values, families, and communities. Yet, suffering is still occurring here and around the world. We acknowledge the great suffering currently being experienced in areas such as flood-ravaged parts of Queensland and New South Wales, and the terror and tragedy of war in places like Ukraine, Myanmar, Syria, Southern Sudan, and several parts of South America. We continue to pray that all suffering around the world ceases, and may we take a short moment to reflect on all those that have passed. Thank you. Here in Victoria, we now have the opportunity to rebuild with a renewal that will lead us forward to value what we have, with the realisation of how resilient and patient we can be as our communities gather strength in kinship. Our spiritual leader and founder, Geshe Acharya Thupten Lodin, taught us that there is nothing whatsoever that is not made easier through acquaintance. Thus, through acquaintance with small harms, it is possible also to have patience for greater harms. Shantideva, engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds. Yes, we are open. Victoria, Australia, and the world is slowly opening to welcome all. Tibetan Buddhist Society is open, and we welcome you with our open hearts, compassion, and love. We are incredibly delighted in announcing our first live-in retreat in Easter from April the 15th to Monday the 18th. So like many, we are rebuilding and renewing our future, joining our resilience with yours to make the world a better place in whatever way we can. Like many, we wish for a world blessed by peace and harmony, and that everyone has everything they need for an enjoyable and mutually beneficial life. Thank you for your continued support and presence today. It is now time to introduce the speakers for today's ceremony. Venerable Phuoc Tan. Venerable Phuoc Tan, Order of Australia, has been the Abbot of Quang Temple in Braybrook, Melbourne, since 1997. He arrived in Australia as a refugee in 1981, and the same year took seminary precepts. In 1990, he was sent to France, where he received his full ordination bhikkhu precepts. Shortly after Venerable Phuoc Tan first arrived in Australia, he met with our special spiritual head, Geshe Lodin, in Sydney, who was distributing envelopes of support for newly arrived refugees. Venerable Phuoc Tam provides meditation instructions to hundreds of residents and staff of various organisations of the Pure Land Mahayana Buddhism. Currently, he is a Vice President of the World Fellowship of Buddhists and a member of the Engaging Buddhism Committee. In 2008, Venerable Phuoc Tam was awarded an Order of Australia Medal in recognition of his service to the community, an honour he promptly shared with the community. He was a patron for the Parliament of World Religions held in Melbourne in 2009. In mid-2011, Venerable Phuoc Tam met with our founder, Geshe Loden, and experienced Geshe La's final formal teaching in this temple. The Quang Temple has been a great friend and supporter of the Tibetan Buddhist Society for many years, and we are very appreciative of the friendship and kindness. Venerable Phuoc Tam.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Venerable Sangha, monks and nuns, distinguished guests, Buddhist fellow ladies and gentlemen. This morning, many of us come from different directions, and it's take a long time to get here, or some of you might be just around the corner. We all gather in this monastery, enjoying the landscape and architect of the Tibetan Buddhist Society. Although we come from different places, different direction, take different time, and we experience different traffic. Some have smooth drive, some come with traffic jam. But the important message is that we all here now. The concept of here and now has been promoted as part of the spiritual practice. In Japanese Zen fabled books when I was young, one story come to my learning process. There was a wave in the ocean. This wave is not so happy about life, because one day he realized he up and down all the time, constantly. This experience very hard for him to wish for a stable life. And he one day very disappointed, and a lot of dissatisfaction expressed his feeling to his friends, which also a wave. He said, "Friends, life as a wave is very unstable, unfair, full of impermanence, all this kind of thing. Very hard to gain anything called stable life." Instead of giving a long answer, his friend just looked at him and say, I thought we are water." So the story finished there, so you can figure out what does that mean. So in life, there's a choice. Either you look at yourself as one way, or you look at yourself as water. Yes, one way you go up and down, experience all kind of experience, high and low, happy and sad, and so forth. When you see yourself as water, doesn't matter you're big or small, you're here or there. You become cloud of the sky, and one day you froze into ice in a harder block. It's okay, water everywhere. Even ourselves is made up of 70% of water. So in Buddhism, whatever we have, I think the best is from the action we can deliver to the world. All we have is thought, speech, and action. And we know that speech and action leads by thoughts. But one thing we can always control. Thoughts is a choice. We don't need to take any pattern of thought anyone else offer, but it's a choice. Keep that in mind, because it's your independence and your freedom is all there. Right choice leads to freedom. So the Buddha have given us a great tools that we have to guard our action, our speech with thought. And there you go, thoughts are your choice. So make the right choice. What the right choice is? The right choice is any thought that can lead to freedom, lead to end of suffering, lead to harmony, lead to a good friendship. Keep that choice, because no one forces others to determine what thought they can hold in their mind. People can force others what to say, what to do, but cannot force people what to think. So can realize that what we really master, we can master ourselves with, or what we have to confine in our life. A lot of compliance that we have to abide, but different people hold different thought, deliver different outcome. So in this world, COVID have taught me one thing very well. That doesn't matter you do right or wrong, but some wrong and some right action of small group can be devastating. You can see that the figure coming up and down all the time, and we hope that somewhere in Victoria people do the right thing. Yes, some people might be by accident they infected, and that figure enough to lock the whole state. And I'm sure that many of them had done the right thing after that. That's why it keep the figure coming down again. And then we enjoy the freedom altogether. So in this world, we cannot claim to be individuals anymore. We just have to work together, learn to work together. Just like when the wave realize it's water, yes, its strength, it come all the water together and it enjoy, doesn't matter where it is, wherever it go, it's water. In Australia, I've learned one thing so good. In the New Year's, we make New Year resolution. This resolution is good in the way that it's helped me to focus my effort, try to make that year more productive. Although I do a lot of work, but sometimes you need to concentrate effort, try to get things done in a way that is more beneficial to others than just let energy flow around. And when we focus, we can see the outcome of our result. In Buddhism, there is a concept I spent my whole life learning it. It's about emptiness. Emptiness is mean that nothing exists. No existence is genuinely there. It just what we give it a meaning, give it a name for convenience, but it's not really have the real identity that lasts forever. Because why? Because it's come together, it formed with condition. So one thing I might learn from it is that whatever issue, whatever thing happened to us, there is a condition supported. So to make it happen or to make it go away, we look at the condition. Either it's there or it's not there. If it's not there, then this whole thing will be disintegrated. So this concept gives us the hope that doesn't matter how severe the condition might become, but if we can work it out. What sort of condition we can remove to make the whole pandemic go away? Okay, some scientists trying to come with vaccine. But you can see that they always hesitant in the world. And it needs a strong collaboration. So collaborations is another condition to make it work. So again, you can see that from time to time, I keep stretching the point that we are together in this tour, in this trip. We cannot separate with each other for too long. Funny, there was a story in a cartoon I read some time ago at the beginning of pandemic. It was a young boy. He packed up all his gear and pulled the luggage out of the door, go out on the street. Mom asked, "Where you go, son?" He said, "I want to save the world." And then a few minutes later, he come back with the same luggage. And the mother say, "Did you give up your vow? You give up your will?" He say, "No, the police told me if I want to save the world, I need to stay home." So in the pandemic, again, the concept of emptiness, sometimes the actions in non-action is also an action. So time we spend stay home, but how can we say is the meaningful in what we are doing? You can say the meaning is in that non-action, then that non-action is full of action. Therefore, a lot of people in the non-action, they still can live very happily. But some can see that time, when they are not acting anything, they depress. And they see that life is so worthless because they cannot do anything. But again, that non-action is really saving the world. So today, either you can realize that we will be together always. And our action always have a very strong impact. Doesn't matter how small thing we do. During Clean Up Australia Day, I often tell my student, I say, look at one piece of rubbish there. Although it's very small, but if you make one small effort to pick it up, you save 1,000 times people walk up and down very annoyed about that. Could be 10,000 people walk past that piece of rubbish and each of them definitely will feel annoyed. But they will feel happy. They might not know who had picked up that rubbish because the rubbish is not there. But you have done a great job. So it doesn't matter how small the action is. If we do it with meaningful, we enjoy the greater happiness. And we don't need someone to interpret what's this action meaningful or not. But if we can give it some meaning, if we can give it some meaningful, then this action be very valuable to each of us. And if we can do something like that, we can enjoy the happiness within. So, thing can be small or big is again up to us. The thoughts is yours. So today, I hope the beginning of the program for the Tibetan Buddhist Society, and I wish you open with a great success. But the great success already there. I know you are very careful during the past 2 years. If we just come out safe and in one piece, we are successful. So today, I take this opportunity to wish everyone to be safe, happy, and you can feel the harmony and togetherness whatever you do and wherever you are. And for sure, today you are here and now with all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Venerable Phuoc. Beautiful speech. Thank you. Our next speaker is Maria Vamvakinou, Federal Member of the House of Representatives for our local electorate of Calwell. Maria is the first Greek-born woman to be elected to the Parliament of Australia. Maria grew up and was educated in Melbourne's northern suburbs with a strong sense of social justice for earliest years that she was there. Maria was pre-selected for the seat of Calwell in 2000 and was subsequently elected to the House of Representatives in 2001. Since then, she's been Calwell's elected federal member of Parliament for 6 consecutive years or terms. The federal seat of Calwell is a culturally diverse community and has the largest intake of refugees in Victoria as part of a special humanitarian program. Maria works closely with her constituency to advocate on issues such as immigration, employment, healthcare, and education in federal parliament. Among many roles, Maria is the Deputy Chair of the Joint Standing Committee on Migration and is also a member of the Joint Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade, which includes the Human Rights Subcommittee. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you very much, Angela. And can I just begin by acknowledging that we are on the land of the Wurundjeri people, and I'd like to pay respects to elders past and present, and any elders in the room, to my parliamentary colleague, Craig Ondarchi, welcome. Jim Overend and Karen Sherry, local Hume City Council councillors. It's always a pleasure to come back to this place. It really is, and it's been a very long time. And I'd like to also thank Venerable Phuoc for that beautiful speech, full of so much wisdom. I don't know that I can actually aspire to it or match it, but I will try and say some meaningful things today. I wanted to reflect perhaps on 3 things: on place, people and peace. And as someone who does represent a very diverse electorate, this area known as Calwell and Hume City Council is a place where people from all sorts of backgrounds have moved here, either willingly as skilled migrants or perhaps a little unwillingly as refugees, forced to leave their homelands and to seek a better and safer life for themselves and their children. So they've created a space for themselves here, a place where they can start anew, and a place where they can call home, where they can build community, and they can have a sense of belonging. And that sense of belonging, in most cases, is enabled very strongly by the places of faith, the faith places that they create. And this is a very, very multi-faith community. And this beautiful temple, the Peaceful Land of Joy Meditation Centre, is one of those most treasured places in our community. And its tranquility, its serenity, and its peacefulness, which is imbued in this space, certainly is always a joy to be present and to be inspired by. So spaces like this do take us, when we get the opportunity to come here, give us the opportunity to step back and to, out of the daily grind, in many cases, and in my case, and Craig and possibly Jim and Karen will understand this, the very adversarial nature that we move in and operate in and try to manage and navigate. It's great to be in a place where you can reflect and find some sense of peace. And certainly this place, this space, offers that. It offers an incredible retreat from that world into a more tranquil and peaceful world. And I know that its presence here is fully appreciated by everyone in the community. And of course, behind the places that we create and the spaces that we create are the people. And many of you are here today. Many have come here over the years. I've certainly visited here many times. And people find spiritual fulfillment in their daily lives because of these spaces. And without that, I would imagine that life would be a lot more difficult to navigate and to work through. And in this space, our community holds the values that are upheld by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who did bless this temple 20 years ago, which is probably about the same time that I went to Federal Parliament. So we're on the same ticket with His Holiness on that 2-decade period. And in speaking of His Holiness, it's really important to reflect on his message of peace. And it is indeed at a time when the world is very fragile and there's been very dramatic shifts that are taking place. We've just had 2 years of the pandemic. We're not through that yet. We have to learn to live with a virus that gets the better of us, but we have risen to the occasion not only as a community, but we've also proven as a human race that our advances technologically and medically, scientifically have allowed us to meet the challenges of this pandemic and to respond to it for the purposes of saving life as best we can, in a way that the Spanish flu some 100 years ago, people at that time would not have had that capacity. And we need to be grateful for that. We need to be grateful for the fact that we are actually living in a time in human history where we have that capacity to respond quickly and successfully to, at the very least, the threat of pandemics and viruses. In relation to war, unfortunately, haven't really progressed any further than other humans in the past, and we haven't learned from history. And what we're seeing happen in the Ukraine at this point in time, at the moment, shows us just how fragile our sense of peace and our sense of tranquility is. And it also shows that we advance as a civilization on one hand, but on the other, we are really sort of pulled back, unfortunately, by this sense of aggression that obviously enables war and other horrible things to happen. I might quote His Holiness because I think it's very important, and I think we could learn from this, that the world belongs to humanity, not this leader or that leader, kings or religious leaders. The world belongs to humanity. And I think that is a very powerful message that we need to take heart from, or be guided by, and we hope that our leaders, our political leaders, who often are the ones that lead us into war, one in particular that I'm thinking of at the moment, may reflect on those words and hopefully find some place in their hearts to actually do something to stop the war. His Holiness, I have met His Holiness in Canberra when he was here, probably not in 2002, when he later came. I belonged to the Tibetan Friendship Group in Canberra, and I want to take this opportunity to thank His Holiness for the message that he sent and which was read out at St Patrick's Cathedral on Monday at the funeral of my former colleague, Senator Kimberly Kitching. It was a beautiful message, and it brings home just how connected we all are in our pursuit of similar values and objectives. There's a lot that I can say about the work that's done here, certainly a lot of work which is enabled and driven by the values of Buddhism in our community, a lot of charity work that's done here. I most recently had the opportunity, away from my electorate, to volunteer in the kitchen of the Big Umbrella, and then to go down to Flinders Street where they feed the homeless, and have been doing that for many years. And one of the people that run it is a Buddhist, and we got a chance to talk about Geshe Loden. and to see the work of people at that level that are inspired by the values of Buddhism is quite extraordinary. We never relate the two, we just assume things happen, but we never really stop to think about what drives people and what enables them. So we're very thankful for the wonderful work that is done. And I'd just like to say to you all that it's really great to be able to get together again, to come this weekend, and there are other New Year celebrations taking place. The Afghani community is celebrating their New Year's. The local Iraqi and Syrian community, the Iraqi community will be celebrating their New Year. There are a Keto festival on April the 1st. We are entering the Christian period of Easter, both Catholic Easter and Orthodox Easter. So the following month will be very busy with all sorts of important religious ceremonies. But ultimately, everyone, all of us who aspire or who are part of a faith, are enabled and guided by the same principles. So I'd like to wish you all a wonderful weekend. It's a beautiful weekend. The weather's beautiful. The traffic wasn't a problem. It's actually quite nice, if I can say that. I won't say it any further up McKibben Road, but if I can say it coming up from down south, it was a great ride up here. So enjoy the rest of the weekend, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you. We now ask Mr. Tim McKibben to come here and do the prayers for the morning of peace and renewal. Tim McKibben is a very long time student of the Tibetan Buddhist Society, and he also teaches at this centre. Thank you, Tim.
So I'd like to say thank you for coming to the Venerable Ordained Sangha, and to this distinguished guests, and to ladies and gentlemen, everyone, thanks for coming. Yeah, I'm long term. When I first arrived here in '88, I had a full head of hair, but that's long gone, unfortunately. So I think we're going to start off with a brief meditation, and then the prayers for world peace, the great prayer for world peace. So we'll just relax and assume a meditation posture. And literally we'll focus on Lord Buddha's first teaching 2,500 years ago, the turning of the wheel of the Four Noble Truths, and the truth of suffering, the first noble truth that we need to identify so we can remedy it. And as we look around the world, we can feel a bit overwhelmed with the problems these days. So the problems of the pandemic has killed so many, had huge economic impact. The problems of climate change. So we've seen fires last northern summer across Siberia, across the western USA, California, across the Mediterranean. We've seen bushfires here in previous years. We've seen the massive flooding in Queensland, New South Wales, and the suffering that causes. And drought across North Africa, where they can least afford it. And we've seen the rise of authoritarian regimes becoming more oppressive at home and placing pressure on their neighbours. and powerful countries threatening others, such as the terrible situation in Ukraine right now. Cities being destroyed. And in Australia, we see again the truth of suffering, with so much problems with poverty and domestic abuse and youth mental health problems, substance abuse, and so on. So the list can seem endless. And we can recognise that in one way or another, most of these problems come from human mind, from human decisions, decisions of people in power, and decisions on the individual level. So how do we stay strong and positive in the face of all this? Not by listening to divisive words or adversarial words, but by listening to the words of the world's great spiritual teachers, like Lord Buddha, Lord Jesus Christ, Holy Mother Mary, and so on. So I'd like to read the words of the first Panchen Lama. He said, "Nobody desires even the slightest suffering, or is ever content with the happiness they have. As there is no difference between myself and others, bless me to rejoice in the happiness of others." So those first two lines, nobody desires even the slightest suffering, or is ever content with the happiness they have. See, that's true for yourself. You never want suffering, and we always want more happiness. And your family is the same. And the Melbourne community, every individual, is the same. And we can extend out through the world. Everyone in Russia is the same. Everyone in Ukraine is the same. Everyone in China, the US. Everyone wants happiness. No one wants suffering. As there is no difference between myself and others, bless me to rejoice in the happiness of others. So for a few moments, rejoice and wish for the peace and happiness of all living beings. From your heart. And now we can practice the great prayer for world peace that was compiled by Geshe Tibetan Lodin, our spiritual head, and is compiled from verses from some of the great bodhisattvas of this tradition. For example, Shantideva, Nagarjuna, and so on. So we can all join in. May all living beings be adorned with love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. May they possess generosity, ethics, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom. Thus, by the virtue collected through all that I have done, may the pain of every living being be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world, until everyone is healed. May a rain of food and drink descend to clear away the pain of thirst and hunger, and during the eon of famine, may I myself change into food and drink. May I become the inexhaustible treasure for those who are poor and destitute. May I turn into all things they could need, and may these be placed close beside them. Without any sense of loss, I shall give up my body in enjoyments, as well as all my virtues of the 3 times, for the sake of benefiting all. May I be a protector for those without one, a guide for all travellers on the way. May I be a bridge, a boat, and a ship for all who wish to cross the water. May I be an island for those who seek one, and a lamp for those desiring light. May I be a bed for all who wish to rest, and a slave for all who want a slave. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. May the blind see forms, may the deaf hear sounds, and just as a rainbow arises naturally from space, may pregnant women give birth without pain. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food, may the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, the weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find new hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their illness, and may every disease in the world never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting one another. May all sentient beings have all the stainless powers, freedom from all conditions of non-leisure, freedom of action, and good livelihood. May embodied beings have a good complexion, good physique, great beauty, a pleasant appearance, freedom from disease, power and life. May I always be an object of enjoyment for all sentient beings according to their wish, and without interference, as are the earth, water, fire, wind, medicine, and forests. May I be as dear to sentient beings as their own life, and may they be very dear to me. May their negativities ripen for me, and all my virtues for them. May I give profit and victory to others, and take loss and defeat for myself. May I abandon selfishly cherishing myself, and continuously practice cherishing others. As long as any sentient being anywhere has not been liberated, may I remain in the world for their sake, even though I have attained enlightenment. May all worldly beings never experience war, fighting, or conflict, and forever remain without bad conditions, such as earthquakes, disease, or drought. May peace pervade the hearts of all, that they ever abide in joy and abundance. By the merits I've accumulated, may every living being abandon all forms of evil and continuously engage in virtue. And then on this other handout, we got the prayers for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until psychic existence is ended. And then the general dedication. By this virtue, may all beings complete the collections of wisdom and merit, and attain the two holy bodies arisen from wisdom and merit. May the precious superior mind of enlightenment be generated in those who have not yet generated it, and not decrease in those who have developed it, but increase continuously. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for joining us today. It's been wonderful seeing faces in the temple and seeing people, looking to people's eyes and being able to welcome you again. It's just an amazing experience. So with that, thank you from the depths of our heart and for your presence here today. Every small action that we take has a huge impact, and your presence here today has a huge impact. Thank you. Thank you.